Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is. Oh.
Yeah, it's faster today. It was a little slow the other day.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock, so let's get going. Welcome staff, members of council, any members of the public that are watching tonight to this Town Lake Couch and Special Committee of the Whole meeting Thursday, January 24th, starting at 5 p.m. This meeting is being held electronically via the council chambers located at 39 South Shore Road, Lake Couch in BC. Just like to acknowledge this meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territories of the Subosset, translated meaning people of the lake, the First Nations that we happily live next to as neighbors and work and play together happily. With that, I'd like to call this meeting to order with next introduction of any late items from anybody. Okay, motion to approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Austin, thank you. Seconded by, another hand, Councillor Sandhu, thank you. All those in favor? And opposed? Motion carried. Nothing else on this agenda until we get down to new business. So this meeting was basically is being held to ask any questions after you've had time to review the line after line after line of detailed financial information for not only the 2022 budget, but the 5-year financial plan. So I think it's been a fair amount of time to go over that. And so if we could just move into the ABC in a moment here. And I think just briefly, the next step would be to tomorrow night when everybody's with us, we can set the next meeting date. And what's going to be expected coming up is a motion from council to ask staff to prepare the appropriate bylaws associated with creating the 22 budget, the financial plan, and the parcel taxes. So, but that can all be done in, I think, one motion when we get there. And it doesn't have to be the next meeting. If we need more time to go through details, we can do that as well. But, and we can decide tomorrow night when that meeting will take place. So with that, we'll go to new business A, sewer and water 5-year estimates. Mr. Fernandez, there's options there.
Yeah, if I may, so what we have here is the 5-year financial plans for water, sewer, and the general fund. And as an aside, we've also included the financial statements that reflect the last number of years. So you can have a look at it and make some comparisons. Now, going back to the water and sewer parcel taxes, I think council needs to be aware that when we first wrestled with it, it was not at $100 that we were looking at for each of the parcel taxes. It would have been a lot higher. So, I mean, we did our very best to bring it down to the $100 because water and sewer funds are in not good shape. So that's the reason why we came, the staff had a fair bit of time trying to figure out what's the best avenue to approach this. So we thought that would be the least, from council's viewpoint, it would have been the least damaging. So I think that is basically all I have to say at this point. And on the general fund, you can see that it's 4.5%, but we've also put in most of the requests from the departments to make the balance, to make the budgets work. We did take out a few items, but they've been moved forward to the following years. So with that, we can start with the water and sewer. And I think council asked that we provide a couple of options for the sewer, and that we have. So with that, I can ask the Director of Finance to maybe start the discussing the water and sewer, but let me just share the screen. I think you want to see that. Okay, with that, the Director of Finance, can she see this?
Yes, thank you. So I have presented option 1 and option 2. There's no changes in the water fund, but in the sewer, option 1 was as discussed. The parcel tax for 2022 is $435,500. And that is with the increase in the parcel tax to $250. On the second page, we've prepared option 2, which is an increase of only $50. So you can see that there's an roughly $86,000 drop from the $435,500 to $348,400 in the parcel tax. So that is the difference between options 1 and 2, is just the parcel tax, which takes the transfer from transfer to surplus to a transfer from surplus. So we're reducing the surplus in option 2 and reducing the parcel tax by $50.
Anybody have any? Oh, sorry.
So, no, that's okay. That's what I was going to say. And this is what was requested, I believe, from the last budget meeting.
All right. So does anybody have any questions or comments on those two sets of numbers? Councillor Sandhu?
Thank you. Firstly, the information, it's very clear what direction council needs to look at with the bottom dollar of what we have in our sewer reserve fund. And I'm just curious, if we went for option 1, what was my question? Sorry, I just went blank. The last time was 2016 when we did an increase from 50 to 100. Was that the first increase?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and then the next one was 2020 at $50 from 100 to 150. Okay. Thank you.
Well, the advantage, if I may, of doing the increase all at once this year is you don't have to do an increase next year. It's done once. And as the Director of Finance pointed out, there'll be a shortfall this year without the additional increase.
When you say shortfall, Mr. Fernandez, in both funds?
No, I'm just talking about sewer.
Just sewer. Okay, thank you. Councillor Sandhu, go ahead.
No, thank you. Our CAO answered what I was going to ask.
All right, so given that I don't think we're going to be making, well, I don't want to predetermine, but unless somebody's going to jump forward and make a motion tonight, but I'm hoping we want to wait for our other member to come join us in the next meeting. But so there's option 1, option 2, option 3 that crossed my mind was if we're going to explore 2 options, would it possibly make more sense for option 2 to go the full $100 increase on the sewer parcel tax? And if we're going to consider a partial increase in the parcel tax, would it not make more sense to do it on the water? I'm just putting that out there because being optimistic that we'll be successful with the sewage treatment plant grant, we'll be able to move ahead with that capital. And wouldn't it be better to bolster those surplus accounts if we have to make a choice? We won't know that till future discussions. And I can just leave it at that and bring that up at the next meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, I think there would be a shortfall in the water fund. I stand to be corrected. The Director of Finance can maybe answer that if you were to reduce that to 50, the $50.
Yes, that's correct. There would be a shortfall in the water fund, and we're limited in the amount of capital we can do in the water fund, only because of there's no surplus really there, hardly any surplus there to use. So 300 or so, 1,000 a year, 300,000 a year or so is what we're limited to, and it just isn't enough to do very many water mains or capital projects. So in the water fund, we're anticipating moving it up to 300 in 2022 and then 350 in 2023. But I didn't think that doing it all in 1 year would be feasible. So it's already staged over 2 years.
Okay, thank you very much. That's killed option 3 for me. Thank you. Councilor Omaka.
Thought maybe I wasn't in the little square.
No, you weren't, but I
Um,
found you.
Thank you. Question to staff. Under the option 1, so we're looking at 250 across the board for sewer and water. And then the water fund, we're going from 3 and then 350 all the way to 2026. And it looks like we're doing the same thing on option 2. And question is don't you think it would be maybe a little more prudent to make smaller increases each year so that we at this time don't sit here in another 4 or 5 years having to do another large jump? So say if we choose the option 2 and we're at $200 this year, and then we go 250, 250, 250, 250, even if we went 2 and then 225, 250, 275, 300, a smaller increase, but at least have one every year instead of these large gaps of 5 years in the budget. That's just a thought. Thank you.
Yes, if council is amenable to that, we certainly could. I mean, we basically are setting 2022, the next 5 years are estimates, which usually we're revising as we go. So depending on, what happens with the sewer fund and the capital programs, we might have to in 2025 or 2026 increase that. So that, yeah, we could definitely do that if that's council's wish now.
Yeah, if I could interject, it was only because when Councillor Sandu brought up when we started with the increases, there seemed to be years that there was no increase. And then we have to come back and ask for a large one. So that's why I'm just wondering if that might be something that we can talk about or staff can direct us on. Thank you.
So perhaps, just so I'm fully understanding what you just said there, Councilor Omaka, could somebody just repeat? So option 1 shows sewer utility fund at 250 starting in 22 going straight across, and the water going to 300 and then 350 from there on. What do you see being changed differently?
I think from what I understand, that's incremental increases. Instead of, $100 every 5 years or whatever, or 100, you're looking at smaller increases, maybe 25 to 75 in other years, so that it's creeping up slowly instead of all at once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. Thank you.
And we can definitely bring something back for the next meeting showing that.
Councilor Sandy, go ahead.
Just for clarification, so when we're doing a 5-year budget, I mean, even looking at 2025, 2026, I mean, it's unknowns as to what costs are going to be, what the town's needs are going to be. So my question is, could you just outline what can be used under the sewer reserve fund? Like what is it any underground breaks? Is that where the funds come from, or I'm not, I need to.
If that's operational, capital is anything more than $10,000.
Anything more than 10,000?
And it has to be a big dollar item. It's not just repairs. If it's a repair, then it doesn't qualify.
Okay, so something has to be replaced, like redone
Replaced,
completely.
yeah.
So, but it has to be anything over 10,000. So right now we have a $1,755. So that's not going to get too much, is it? So, I mean, we looking at the law was a decision, you know, of council each of these years. And with costs increasing overall, we have to be proactive this budget year. This is how I'm looking at it. And it's not going to be popular, but it's necessary. All costs are going up in our personal lives, everything. And we have got some things that we've got to get going on in our town, and that's going to take money. And with us not knowing whether or not we will get a grant for the sewer lagoon, that's an unknown also, is we've got to be, as what staff is doing now, is really looking at the bottom dollar, and it's about what we need to bring in for revenue.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with comments on this section? Councillor Austin, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I agree with that. Oh, we need to be proactive and be putting some money away, or we're going to have a problem down the road. I like option one. I've looked over it carefully, and I'm certainly not a financial person, but I think option one is pretty fair to start with. Perhaps we could go with option one and then still go $25 a year after that on both of those, if necessary, if we deem it necessary. But I think we have to do something this year. You said the last increase was 2020. That's not too far away, but we probably should have done one last year too, as well. So yes, we must put some money away for the future.
Yeah, and that's why it's important that we do see the 5-year financial plan in front of us and not just look at the 2022 numbers. I mean, I know a few years back, I used to get stuck in the next current year and not look ahead, but I'm starting to learn more to look further ahead. And it's, you know, we've been going at the sewage lagoon project for so long now that it's hard to ignore anymore, just like a leaky roof in your house. So, you know, and there was a saying that I don't know if it's helpful to you, but it was helpful to me a few years back when somebody said the community that has the courage to invest in itself will be happier and more well off in the long run. So, you know, and plenty of homeowners are happy to go and do home improvements, and they should be able to willing to come to the table and do improvements in the community as well. So that helps me explain things to the public. Councillor Sandhu.
Well, and also the fact that the development that we've got in our community the last couple of years, you know, there's no wiggle room at our sewer lagoon. So this is right. We're at the 12th, what do we call it, the 12th hour or something like that, and yeah. we are there, and we have got to do something. So we can't sit idle and just wish this will get worked out, and that if we don't have to increase things, that, you know, everything will be great. But the reality is we need dollars. Yeah.
And, you know, like it's been such a lull in and around the community for so many years now, but I know staff has known for a long time that Block 48 was going to be developed. Point Ideal was always on the slate to be developed. The plant property at the beginning of town was always in the plan for development one day. And so, but it just came on all of a sudden, didn't it? So, I mean, it's now becoming an urgent matter with our community, especially the sewer part of things. Water as well, because we've got leaks coming up everywhere, don't we? And a treatment plant that has to be kept running. Okay, so everybody's good there for tonight. It gives us a solid base for the next discussion, and hopefully we'll be able to agree on the right option to move forward next time we meet. Okay, so let's move along to B now, and that is the general fund 5-year financial estimates.
With me.
Now, does any members of council or does staff want to point out any changes been made since the last time we met first, or has there been any?
There may be some changes to the capital, I think. Very minor changes. And I think what you wanted to look at was to see what items were taken out of the budget, capital items were taken out of the budget this year. And that, as the Director of Finances, colored them in so you see that they've been moved forward. You look at the last pages. Let me show you this. I think we can start here. I'll let the Director of Finance take over.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's been minimal changes from what was the preliminary budget that was presented before. And the main changes is that those items that were part of budget discussions, but those capital items were moved to the future years, are highlighted there in green. So the information center trim work was not done, or not going to be done in 2022, but has been moved, and all the other subsequent items. So the total transfer from surplus, the 5-year plan, is the same as what was presented previously. And this is, I think, the first time that you've seen the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan presents a 4.5% budget increase, as previously discussed, and the next 3 years shows a 3% increase.
Each of the years.
In each of the years. So if there's any questions, I can address those now.
And if you see any items that are green that you want to move forward to this year, it would either mean a tax increase or you would have to cut some other items.
Okay, I just have one quick observation. Could be a question. In the top row of revenues, the 2022 revenues, 2,392,356, and that's at 4.5%. And I've noticed going across, it goes up rather incrementally with the 3% increases. And just so I'm clear, that is because of the increase in housing being built in the community and increased development.
And inflation.
Inflation, okay. Okay, thank you. That was my only observation. Councillor Sandu.
Looking at on the revenues of CLEC revenues over the next 5 years, I was surprised by the increase projections of revenue. So over the 5 years, it was projection of 199,000 increase in revenue, and the CLEC expenses over the 5 years of an increase of 164,300. So I'm just wondering, how do we project 5 years of revenue, like as of in this planning year, in this budget year? Like, how did you come up with these numbers?
So we are going back to pre-COVID revenues. CLEC revenues in excess of 400,000 is not an unreasonable target. So we're going back to that. In 2023, we've still assumed that COVID might still be an impact, so the revenues are shown as lower. But in 2024, we're going back to more bookings and larger groups. So we're hoping that, obviously it is still, I guess, an estimate or a prediction, I guess. But I can, yeah, I can let the manager speak to that.
I guess really what we're looking at is we're just hoping like crazy that COVID will finally be over and give us a break and let us go on with more rentals, you know, hospitality.
You want to unmute? Dalton?
Basically, what we're looking at is we're just hoping, like everybody else is, that COVID will give us a break and we'll start getting back to normal activities where people aren't canceling their bookings, but increasing their bookings. We just have to be hopeful. And I think it's looking that direction in many ways, I hope.
That could be fine-tuned next year should things go the other way.
Go ahead, Councillor Sandu.
Yeah, just because looking at like the first year, an $84,000 increase from 222 to 223, that just caught my eye right away when I kind of looked at the numbers and brought my calculator out. So I thought, well, that's a good substantial increase. So, and then as I went along, I'm satisfied with what Ms. Gill and Mr. Smith has explained to me. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Councillor Austin.
Yeah, now we've asked for a business plan for the CLEC. How hard is it going to be to do a business plan for the next year or two with the COVID problems that are happening right now? Can we do some kind of can the manager do some kind of a basic business plan of what he predicts for the next year or two?
That's a good question. And I know that council, you know, would like an updated business plan. And so would I, quite frankly. Again, I have to refer to COVID. We're in different times and I can predict what the campground will do. And I think we've done a good job of that over the years between finance person, Ms. Gill and myself. But, you know, the education centers and hospitality industry in a different way. And it's including people inside. So COVID has to be over before we can present a business plan that's going to be produced with some thought behind it and some figures. I hope that answers your question, but really it's a COVID problem at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. And that's something that seems to be changing every day. And as so sure most of us are aware, the government's kind of shifted gears on that and how they're going to approach it from here on in. So, yeah, we really have to look into that scenario before we come up with a firm business plan. But we can at least move forward in a meeting and talk about that and see what council's expectations are. But we really got to get a grip on what the COVID situation is. And because, you know, like they keep on explaining that COVID or Omicron now is just like a common cold or a common illness. It's moving to that direction and people are going to back off. The provincial government's backing off on regulations. I mean, arenas are full and things like that. So hotels are still taking bookings and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we'll just have to take all that into consideration. And well, I guess we're not going to rush into anything anyways, because it's not all of a sudden going to come to an end tomorrow. But we can at least talk about what the expectations are for the years to come, especially when we get up to the projected 400,000 a year revenue. Go ahead, Councillor Sandu.
Just also, I noted that like there's no budget for 5 years for advertising for the CLEC. So I was just curious as to is it like our website, our Cowichan Lake Education Center website that draws people and people that are returning? I'm just wondering of reaching out further once COVID is over, if we have some sort of small advertising budget.
Can't hear you, Dalton. Mr. Smith?
Sorry about that. A couple of years back, we did improve our website and it's made quite a difference actually. And so we are getting lots of requests. There's no question about that. But then everything keeps getting canceled. So I think before we start putting more money into an advertising budget, I think that we have to go from year to year. And next year's budget perhaps could include a big blitz if we know that we're having an opportunity to sort of attract more attention to the center. So that's been the strategy. In this last year, there's been no point of putting advertising money in. Again, things like the campsite are more predictable. Hotel rooms, things like that, and the center, very difficult to do.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay. Any more questions in the 5-year plan? Okay. Then we can move along now to C, the general fund budget estimates for 2022. And there they are. So in front of you there, you have a comparative to 2021 budgeted actuals and then the 2022 budgeted. So if there's anything you have any questions about the differences there was a few questions last meeting, but I did have more time to look through it.
Yeah, the only thing is the 21 actuals are still being finalized, so don't take that as gospel.
Okay, there was one question I had in here. I just needed a refresher on unconditional transfers.
So
That's the money from the province that they give us without strings attached.
Okay, not gas tax? Or does it include gas tax?
Gas tax, I will let the director of finance answer that. I don't think it does.
the gas tax funds are conditional. So there's conditions that we have to meet to use those. So that's the small community protection grant there pretty much.
Okay.
That 511.9.
Okay. Anybody else on the 2022?
Guess that's the advantage of giving you paper copies.
More time to soak it in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last thing we want to do is to come out with a budget of a 4.5% increase, which is larger than normal for this council in previous years, and increase in parcel tax without everybody having a chance to ask all the questions they need to ask, and so they can give good explanations when they get I don't want to say attacked, questioned in the public is the word. We have to be able to show our face and be able to explain the stuff that goes on when we get to these decisions. So it's kind of a comforting fact. There's no more questions here, but we're going to have one more time before we put a rubber stamp on it and say move forward. But then there's also, after that, it's been a while, Joe, Mr. Fernandez, it goes to first and second reading and then public hearing.
No, there's no public hearing on this. It will be first 3 readings. On the water and parcel taxes, that would be subject to input from the public. Because there will be, the Director of Finance can clarify what is that court of.
There will be a parcel tax roll review panel hearing as well.
So that's where it gets finalized.
So in the past, at least on one occasion, has there not been a public
Hearing?
presentation of the proposed budget, or I can't remember perfectly?
No, not just what we're doing here. This is public, and we
Okay.
have invited the public to notify the public
Yeah.
at those meetings, but no public hearing.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. I think back when we weren't public with our meetings, I think we did at one time do a public open house on the budget, but
Could be.
probably 7 or 8 years ago. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Sandhu.
Sorry, I was trying to find it. So under the expenditures, for the fire department, so even though 2021, the numbers aren't finalized, to date, there was expenses of $428,080. And then the budget for 2022 has jumped $98,020. I was just curious if there's a reason for that.
Yeah, so if you flip to page 4, that shows the breakdown of the budget for the fire department that makes up the 526,100. So
Okay.
we're in, yeah, so the fire chief was anticipating additional costs in the operations with more staffing in the office, as well as some of the vehicles are in need, some of the fire trucks are in need of more maintenance. As the equipment ages, there's also less warranties and whatnot, so the costs are also higher there. So you can see here where the increases are that make up those amounts.
Thank you very much. You answered my question.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see any more hands going in the air. Does staff wish to make any further comments before we move along and towards the end of this agenda?
I have nothing further to state. We covered the expenses and the revenues in the general fund for 2022 previously. This is the first year you're seeing the 5-year plan. So either at this meeting or next meeting, I'd be, if there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, I'm going to move along now before Mr. Fernandez thinks of something, and we'll
Yeah,
go
well,
to-
yeah, I think this has been a fairly detailed process. Council has had significant input into the 5-year plan in both the water and sewer, and the general fund. So I think that's a step in the right direction. We've had a lot of input. Staff have had considerable input into this process, and now it's up to you.
Okay. All right, so tomorrow night, I'll make sure, and if I forget, somebody please remind us or add it to the agenda under new business. We'll go next meeting date for the budget. And you can think about things like, could we tag on before or include it into the next committee of the whole, or keep it as a special committee of the whole, or I don't know if we want to wait till the end of the month. I think we need to do it before that if staff is going to prepare bylaws for the regular council. So a couple options there to think about, but most of all, we'll make sure that everybody can be there. Okay, so notices of motions, I don't see any. And then, could we back up one step, please? Under new business, could we have a motion to approve the absence of Councillor McGonigal from tonight's meeting? Sorry, that was forgot to be added. Moved by Councillor Austin. Seconded by, I'm going to say Councillor Sandhu. I didn't see Lorna's hand. Sorry, you're off my screen.
My mouth
half the
was
time.
going to say I'll second it, but I was
All right.
muted.
So, yes, thank you for letting me slide that in there. Forgot to add at the beginning. So all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So no notices of motion. That brings us to the question period. So members of the public can call in or email with a question limited to items on this agenda. We will pause this meeting for 3 minutes while you call into 250-749-6681. Once again, that's 250-749-6681, extension 102. You can call with your question, or you can email to general@lakecowichan.ca either now or anytime you wish for the question. So with that, we'll pause for 3 minutes and see you back at 5:42. Thanks. right, 5:42 it is. Okay, Mr. Fernandez, surprise us.
No emails, all
All right.
telephone calls.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have no in camera tonight, and number 13 is adjournment. So looking for that final motion. No, moved and seconded by Councillor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Bomaka. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, see everybody tomorrow night at 6. Thank you very much, staff. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Good
night.
Have a
night.
great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.